Bing bang bong. Hopefully we are live. Fingers crossed. Whew. Okay. Hi everyone. Hopefully there are people watching. I cannot see if anyone is watching. I can see the chat though. So if you're in the chat, make sure to say hi. I hope everyone's doing well. Long time no see. Haven't done a live in so long. And sorry I'm a bit late. I was trying to sort out the logo here, so that we had a little bit of a branding thing. But yeah, hope everyone is doing well. I hope hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone's having a good time. Hope everyone is enjoying X-Men 97 season 2. Now, a disclaimer, I guess. I have seen all 3 episodes. Don't worry, I have seen them all. I have reacted to them all. But this, as you can tell from the title, is just us talking about episode 1. I thought, because all of the first 3 episodes have come out in once, I thought, you know what, they're quite dense. All of them are quite dense. I feel like they each deserve their own breakdown video. And I have to give a shout out to Jade Rabbit. If you are still in the chat, thank you so much. You were really the one that convinced me to do these live streams, because when you mentioned about how I could do a breakdown as a live stream, I thought, oh, that's like killing 2 birds with 1 stone, as they say. And makes my life a lot easier, because as much as I love to edit videos, it takes a long time. So this is a good way to get around it. So I am going to break down the episode, but we can talk about it as I go through it. It's going to be a bit more, it's going to be less fancy, more just on the fly. I have a bunch of screenshots. We can go through the screenshots. They're like things, they just signify points in the episode, I suppose, and go from there. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it in terms of intro stuff. But yeah, if you are here, let me know what you thought about the first episode. Again, this is only about the first episode, so if you have anything to say about episode 2 or episode 3, I'm going to do another live stream tomorrow evening, and then another live stream Friday evening. And Friday evenings is probably going to be a bit later than this one. But yeah, so don't worry, we're going to cover all 3, and I have recorded, as I said, reactions to all 3. They're just going to take a little longer to come out because I'm editing them, and so they will come out when they come out. But yes, so I suppose without further ado, we can get into the episodes. And LBR, I can see the Emma disrespect in episode 2 was a letdown. Yeah, that's fair. But as I said, we're not talking about episode 2 in this video, in this live stream. Say that for tomorrow. But I agree. But we'll get to that tomorrow. Anyway, without further ado, fingers crossed this works. This was very last minute. Every time I do a live stream, I always leave it to the last minute to sort it out. But here we are. Okay, first frame, to symbolize the new opening credits, which is basically the old opening credits, but much as they did in the first season to like indicate who was going to be in the episode or who was on the team. They did that again, so we had a really short sort of character thing of just the characters in the future. So Cyclops, Jean, Morph, Wolverine, and Storm. But that meant we got a longer sort of title sequence full of different moments from season 1 and from other seasons. And this was probably my favorite, which is just um, such a cool angle of the whole Magneto demetallifying Logan. And I just thought that was really cool. So I kept this screenshot because I thought, yeah, that's a very cool um way to illustrate it. But yeah, fun. Also, fun fact: Storm has her full hair again in that full head of hair. No more mohawk to be seen, thankfully. Praise the hair gods. Um, so I love that. I wish she stayed in her cockrum outfit, her classic outfit in the title sequence, but I suppose it's the 90s. She has to be wearing her 90s outfit. La la la. But yeah, so that's that. Okay, next one. Okay, first thing, first thing that really struck me is that Trish Tilby is alive, but you know she didn't turn into a Prime Sentinel unscathed. She she turned into she did retain some sort of like metal wiring scars, something which is just an interesting little addition, I suppose. You know, I'm glad. I guess she didn't die. I think maybe her and Beast can have another go at it. Um, but yeah, just thought that was a fun little addition, and good for the Trish Tilby fans. Trish any Trish Tilby fans out there, let me know. I feel like your numbers are few, but if you are, say hi. Okay, then obviously right at the beginning we have Bishop and Forge talking about how they're going to. I'm gonna move. Oh, wrong way, wrong way, wrong way. There we go. Wrong way. There you go. Not crickets. Um, Maria, I the X, is that implying that you are a Trish Tilby fan? If so, welcome. Glad to have you. If not, let me know. Um, and Lou, of course, crickets from you. We've all seen how much, well, I know how much you hate Trish Tilby. We've seen it. If you watch the reactions to season one so far, we have also, by the way, recorded all the reactions to season one. So even though only the first three are out, the others are there. I just feel like maybe I should prioritize season two while it's still like hot, but we'll get to the rest of them in the gaps between episodes of season two. Um, but yes, so obviously we get to Bishop and Forge, and surprising to me, they've already figured out the whole time travel thing. They already know where everyone is. Um, so we've got to that point, and Bishop is going to go to the past, and Forge is going to go to the future because, of course, Storm is in the future. Again, do not know how they figured it out. Don't. It's never expanded upon. But let's cut to business, I suppose. So when Forge gets to the future, he comes across these robotic sentinel sort of people. I feel like they have a name, and I just can't remember the name. But anyway, Forge is then saved by Wolverine and Storm. Wolverine, of course, has no more metal in his bones. I was very excited to see Feral Wolverine, and this is very like reminiscent of that, but it's not like really a straight up adaptation because if you know anything about Feral Wolverine, he should be missing his nose, and he's not. As we can all see, he has a nose indent there, and you know what? I feel like um I feel like 97 just really missed a really pivotal moment in Wolverine history, not to like have him lose his nose. And he is a bit more like dog-like, I guess, but he hasn't regressed that much, um, which is, I think, a shame. Missed opportunity. Um, I loved the season where Scott and Jean told Nathan they were his parents. Yeah. Um, which we'll get to. Of Nathan and um, speaking of Nathan and Jean and Cyclops, well, we see the three of them together as they're traveling along with the clan Askani. Um, and as I think we're all sort of aware of now, this is this episode and this part of the season is clearly based on the comic Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix, which was a 4-issue miniseries where Cyclops and Jean, right after their wedding, so on their honeymoon, Mother Askani, Rachel, pulls them forward to the future and they spend 12 years in clone bodies raising Nathan. Now, in this episode, um, we don't, unfortunately, they don't get to spend 12 years with Nathan. They get to spend about 6 months, if that. I don't know, months on a day. Um, but yeah, that's the X-Men 97 effect for you. Just checking, right, yes. So obviously Forge arrives and he's like, well, I've got tickets for you to come home. And then Jean and Scott are like, but we don't want to go home yet. We want to stay with our son. And so Storm convinces Forge to like let them have one more day, which I guess is fair enough. But Forge is also freaked out because he's like, oh, this could be messing the timeline. Um, but there we go. So essentially, Scott and Jean have one more day to spend with Nathan. But at this point in the episode, Nathan doesn't know that Scott and Jean are his parents. Well, you know, in that way. Then we get to see Apocalypse um, be awoken during his regeneration. Ozymandias, who is not a horseman per se, he's more like a herald. He's more like Apocalypse's right-hand man. Very, very sort of introduced in the 90s. I don't know if anyone has ever read the poem Ozymandias by Mary Shelley? Not someone. Mary Percy, Mary, someone Shelley. The poem Ozymandias, which is about a statue in the desert. And whenever I hear Ozymandias, I actually think of that. Um, from school. There we go. I did learn something at school. But anyway, so Ozymandias is like this rock man. I think he got turned into a rock somehow. Um, I will I will remind myself how that happened. But yes. Anyway, he's like the herald of Apocalypse, and he comes to Apocalypse and is like, "Oh, Master, we found a new body for you to regenerate into because in the 90s and in the animated series it's very and even in X-Men Apocalypse the movie there's this whole thing that Apocalypse has to like regenerate and he like goes into new bodies um because he lives so long and he like his body wears out and whatnot. And so Ozymandias was like, "Oh, I've got this best body for you. It's the Askani son. It's Nathan Summers, and he will be such a perfect body for you that you won't even need to regenerate again because he's so powerful. He'll be able to contain you, and yay, it'll be all good for you." So he's like, "Ah, brilliant." And so he unleashes his horsemen, which in this timeline, in this future, are, as they are referred to in the comics, the Final Horsemen, which was such a pleasant surprise. I don't know if the next photo is of them. No, I can skip ahead. The Final Horsemen. So, the Final Horsemen were originally introduced in the comics in Uncanny X-Force by Rick Remender. So that's the sort of 2010, 2011 series with Deadpool, Wolverine, Psylocke, Angel, Phantom X, and Deathlock at points. And essentially, the Final Horsemen were Apocalypse's horsemen that would be unleashed upon Apocalypse's death. And at that point in the comics, Apocalypse was dead. I think it's a fun inclusion to include them here instead as his like future horsemen. So we have Ichisumi um, on the far left, who is, I believe, Pestilence. We have this big guy in the middle. I have forgotten his name, but I know he's from ancient Greece. I'm going to just have a little look. Demetri. It's like Demicus. I'm gonna look up Demicus Horseman, and you see, I have actually been planning to do a horseman video of every single horseman of Apocalypse. So this, I think I've done it at the right time because it looks like there's plenty of horsemen in this season. Yes, Decimus Furious, brilliant. And he's obviously like a Minotaur, and he is War. Um, we then also have Death, who was on that flying carpet there. His name is I'm also just gonna look that up. Sanjar Javid, who's Death. Fun fact though, in the present on Krakoa, he actually could he inverted his powers and became life, which is fun. And we also have Famine, um, who's Jebly. He's the guy with the drumsticks, and he has like this auditory um, power where when he drums his when he beats his drum, it like makes you ill. Um, so yeah, those are the four final horsemen, which is, as I said, really cool to see. Um, Definitely not something I expected. Obviously, they were in that. They did release a little clip of this episode, so I suppose it's not there. But nice inclusion, and really, X-Men '97 is really pulling from like really modern stories now. We've gotten to like 2011. Like, I fear we might run out soon at the rate they're going. We might run out of good stories. But then again, they obviously last season they did adapt Operation Zero Tolerance, which is probably not one of the best, but they made it all right. So that's good. Anyway, back to what there. Okay, so again, throughout the episode, we see like Cyclops and Jean really get close to Nathan, and they're like debating, like, oh, should we tell him that we're his parents, or I'm his biological mother, aunt, I'm his aunt, biological mother slash, and they're really debating it, and then they're like, oh, but Mother Askani wouldn't approve, and Jean's like, well, forget fate, like, let's just do what we want, sort of thing. But Scott goes to Mother Askani to try and convince her to be like, ah, we should like take Nathan to the present. And now for those that don't know, but I feel like it was kind of very much hinted at in the episode. Mother Askani is actually Rachel Summers, the daughter of Cyclops and Jean from the original Days of Future Past timeline. It's sort of hinted at in this episode, but never actually made clear. Um, uh, Rachel obviously then spent loads of time in the actual main 616 universe, so she just hangs around. She was a host of the Phoenix at certain points while Jean was dead. She's been a hound, which is the markings on her face. Currently in a relationship with Betsy Braddock, um, who we'll get to later. But yeah, so very complicated character. But at this point, she'd been lost in the time stream and then got old and was in the future and used her power, blah blah blah. Fun thing I noticed. I don't know if anyone else paid enough, like noticed this as well, but I don't know if I picked the right image to see this. But essentially, there's times where you really focus in on Rachel's eyes, and I've noticed that they are the exact same shade as Jean's eyes. Now, in the first season, they really made a big thing about Cyclops and Cable having the exact same color eyes. Now, obviously, you can't see Cyclops' eyes, but they're like rust brown, as is Nathan's. But I think it's really fun that Rachel, Mother Ascani's, are blue, and jeans are blue as well. So I think that's just a nice nod to the family connection there, and I think it's really emphasized when Cyclops is like asking her like, "Who are you? Who are you?" and it really just focuses in on her eyes. So it's just like, I'm your daughter from the other future, the other bad future." But yeah. So I really do hope as well that we get to see more of Mother Ascani in this season. I hope it's not just a one and done, because I feel like there's so much you could mine from that. Um, so yeah, then what? Oh, hi, Crisis. Um, oh boy, did I freak out when they really started showing her eyes. Yeah, like I thought, wow, this is if you're not gonna say hi mum, hi dad, then that was the best way because obviously they made such a big thing about Nathan and Cyclops showing the same eyes. So I thought that was a fun little nod for people who pay attention in that way. But then of course, uh, Cyclops and Jean decide to actually rebel, which which is fine. You know, some people might be like, oh, you know, Scott's not one to rebel, but I guess in the case of family, he'll do any sort of crazy thing if it's his son and not his wife. You know, um, he's happy to do whatever to save them. If it's his wife though, but yeah, then so they try and escape because they want to like sneak away with Nathan, but then they get confronted by the Final Horsemen, as we talked about a bit earlier, and they get arrested essentially. They get easily beaten because, frankly, their powers are quite insane. Like, uh, War is just a giant minotaur, but Ichisumi, Pestilence, like bugs come out of her mouth, which is disgusting. Death, I can't. I don't actually remember what he is. Something to do with the metal and something like that, I believe. And then obviously, as I said earlier, Jeb, um, famine. Um, oh no, actually, no, is it Jisumi famine? Oh, either way, the one with the drums is he gives you like cancer through sound. So maybe he is pestilence instead. Oh well. Either way, they're cool and they easily defeat Cable and Nathan and Cyclops and Nathan and Jean. And hi Max, yes, I am wearing. Oh, I am wearing Quentin Cry's shirt. Oh, that wasn't that wasn't intentional. That wasn't intentional. I was doing it more for like the Rachel, Mother Askani, ooh, Phoenix, ooh, less than Quentin Cry wearing his shirt. But you know, more the merrier. And as we see, obviously Ozymandias in his very with his stone-like features, um, going to arrest Cable because, as we discussed, Apocalypse wants to use Cable as his like new body, which is something very interesting because it's a very big thing in the 90s, but they very much have dropped in like current continuity in the 2000s, in the present. Apocalypse doesn't swap bodies anymore. He just is happy in his own. So it's really not a thing anymore. But in the 90s, this was a major thing. And it makes me think, are we going to see Strife at all? Because, at this timeline, the future Ascani timeline is where Strife is born. Uh, you know, Mother Ascani has many plans up her sleeve, and one includes cloning Nathan. So I'm curious if we'll see Strife at all. I think that would be really fun. But you love how they maybe he'll just be a cameo, maybe he'll be a season three. Maybe he'll be season three's big bad with the legacy virus. Maybe. Who knows? Um, then after Cyclops and Jean are taken away with Nathan, the rest of the team, Storm, Morph, Forge, Wolverine, and Mother of Scully realize they've gone, and they're like, oh, well, how will we get them back? Because they're on a super fast train going Mach 3, which is crazy. Imagine if trains in the present went that fast. And they're like, well, we don't have enough power. And then um, Rachel's like, oh, I have an idea. And I thought at this point when she was like, oh, I have an idea, I thought she was like, I'm gonna use the power of the Phoenix to like fuel the fuel our own ship to get there, and it was gonna be kind of like I guess maybe a reference to the Crash Time Caper and this Excalibur, and then using the Phoenix to power the interdimensional train sort of thing. But no, it's Storm instead, which is cool. I'm fine with that. I'm Storm fan number one. So, um, it's at this point then that Storm harnessed. Oh, oh, nope, I've skipped ahead. But I missed. Oh, there we go. So at this point that Mother Skani is like, um you can summon the sun. So Storm will do that in a moment, but not yet. Not yet. Because first, Mother Askani reveals that she is behind the whole time travel thing, which I guess both did surprise me and didn't, because obviously having read Adventures of Cyclops and Phoenix, um she is why Jean and Scott in the comic are spend 12 years in the future. And so I thought, yeah, she'll have brought them to the future probably. But I totally thought that Ramatut was going to be um behind the past X-Men. But turns out she's behind it all using her chrono skimming, which is such a good nod. Like I said, I felt the last time, well, I think in Krakoa we finally like re-acknowledged that Rachel's main like form of telepathy is the chrono skimming and the being able to look through time and whatnot. So it's fun for it to be like visualized and recognized on a larger scale like this. But it's fun, the Phoenix. We can't really ever escape the Phoenix, can we? And you know what? I'm not complaining. But yeah. So it turns out she's behind the whole thing because she thought, well, I can stop. Maybe I can stop Apocalypse in the future, but maybe I can also stop him in the past by sending this group of X-Men to the past. Interesting how she chose. Interesting. I'm curious, like, why did she choose certain people to go where? Like, why did Storm and Wolverine and Nightcrawler come to the future, and the others go to the past? Like, I'm curious. I'm sure we won't ever get any more knowledge on that, but just one thing about why did she pick who she picked to go where? Just gonna look at the comments. I'm glad that they are finding ways to use the Horsemen from the original animated series. Yes, in episode 2, which I'll get to in not next week's, tomorrow's live stream. As I said at the beginning, I'm gonna really stretch this out, and we're gonna give every single episode its own live stream because they deserve, each of them deserve the quality, in-depth breakdown that they do. So yes, but we'll get more to that tomorrow. But love that they've been using different horsemen. I haven't been reading the 97 Infinity comic, but I also know that there's like another comic also written by Steve Fox that is like the season 2 prelude. I don't know if that's also connected or if that's a separate, and that the Infinity comic is set in. I don't know. Well, I did think they were talking about the Phoenix Force, but I totally missed it. It was potentially a cross-time cape reference. That might just be me like pulling it together, but seems like something. And Storm is epic. Storm is so epic, and I love that scene. I love that moment, but I hope, because that's pretty much the only thing we've seen of Storm in the entire all the trailers. That's the one thing we keep seeing of Storm. So I'm really hoping that she has some other like important moments that they're just keeping hidden from like marketing and stuff. And I really hope it's not like she does her one thing and then go back to being a background character. Um, but then we see Rachel sort of steering the ship that they have. And I saw someone on Twitter mention, and this was a very good shout. In Krakoa, there was a whole bit with Rachel steering a. Oh, it might have been that alternate reality in like Excalibur 11, where Rachel was like steering a ship with her like Phoenix powers. Um, and yeah, that sort of feels like a reference to this, or that this feels like a reference to that. But yeah, she's sort of using her Phoenix powers to bring. And it's quite interesting though that we never see Jean and Rachel together. Very interesting that we never, sorry, we never get Rachel and Jean together. I mean, maybe it's because Jean would just like be homophobic and get, no, I'm not your mother. Even though Cable's right there and she's like, oh, that's my son. But um, who knows? Maybe it's because that's a story for another day. Maybe it's because they didn't want to get too deep in the weeds of, oh, you're my daughter and we're both the Phoenix. We're both hosts of the Phoenix. But just something very interesting that Rachel and Jean never interact in this episode, I believe. Well, or they don't, they never have a one-on-one conversation. They don't talk to each other, which is so interesting. But yeah, then Storm summons the power of the sun and creates like a giant solar fire tornado that gives the ship they're using enough energy to slingshot and catch up with the super fast train. Um, so then they go and fight, 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 fight. Um, and Morph again is cameo farm at this point because he turns into Thor and beats uh Jebly over the head. Fair enough. Ichisumi with her poor Ichisumi with her parasol does nothing to stop her from the ice cold winds that Storm's generating. And the Horsemen are kind of easily defeated, which is kind of crazy considering how much of a threat they were in the in the first issues of Uncanny X-Force where the team really struggled to beat them. But that's animation for you. But yeah, so really fun to see them, and with them defeated, Ozymandias, being a little coward, um, scurries away and tells Apocalypse, "Oh, we're defeated." So then Apocalypse is like, "Ah, well, the one thing I need to do is get the X-Men at their most vulnerable, which is the 1990s, which, as I said in my breakdown of the trailer, is kind of like, I get it, it's X-Men 97, but it's kind of crazy considering really not their most vulnerable. Like, if you really wanted to kill the X-Men, if you really wanted to get rid of them, you should just go back to the 60s, like when they're training with knives and they're fighting they're fighting Frankenstein and the Locust and that biker gang. Feels like you missed a point there, Apocalypse. But either way, I'm curious. I'm not too sure on what this means, but I'm assuming he's time traveling, and so the the present day Apocalypse is the future Apocalypse. I'm assuming that's what this is. Him going away in his rocket ship is actually him time traveling. I'm assuming, because how would past Apocalypse know like what to do, like, or present day Apocalypse know what to do if this is happening in the future? So I'm assuming the Apocalypse we see in the present, or we saw in the present in that like end credit scene to season one, is this Apocalypse. I don't know. Maybe I've missed a beat. If anyone has any other theories on what version of Apocalypse that might be, but that's what I got from this, is that he was like, you know what, I gotta do it myself, Thanos style, and so teleported away to the 90s, which is fun. Then after Apocalypse has run away and they defeat the Horsemen, um, Nathan really becomes the Dayspring. I really liked as well. This reminds me of when Rachel was like, "Ah, you he was born on the day of spring or a spring day or what have you." And then it was like, "Your season is summer, but his season is spring." And I just thought that was really fun, but also like so cryptic and just like, oh, wordplay, because his name is Summers and he's the Dayspring Askani son. Anyway, he sort of comes into his own as the Askani son. Oh, also as well, he like has got more control over his techno-organic virus. He literally makes it travel further up his arm so he can break out of his inhibitor collar, which is gross, um, and probably quite painful. But he sort of like shows that he's got his powers. He uses some telekinesis and frees a bunch of people. Um, they see him as a sort of prophet, so he really is like, I suppose in this future timeline, Hope 1.0. You know, the that there. So that's fun. And Cyclops gives him a good little bit of wisdom, which is like, leaders aren't made, they're summoned, or I can't remember the bit off the top of my head. I did watch the episode twice, so I don't know why I can't remember, but it was something about they're not this, they're summoned. And so essentially, I guess he's a leader. He's a leader now. Um, oh, and then Cable goes inside the base and he is greeted by Ship, who isn't murderous at all, and he's just like, "Hi, Nathan. I've been waiting for you. I've got loads of answers for you." And Ship becomes like a cube, and then Cable gets an upgrade on his arm. I'm assuming Ship becomes integrated into the arm, so essentially becoming Professor, who then is Prosh, who then is at some point is Bell, I think is another one of his AI is essentially like that his AI assistant, um kind of like Jarvis in the movies, or whoever Layla from Miguel Spider-Man 2099, which is fun. Um so yeah, he truly becomes um the Askani son in that moment. And that's it. And then we get this really cool transitional shot back to the present of 1997, um, with Cable, and it's him with a bunch of files. He's doing his research, trying to find the find stuff about Apocalypse. We see obviously, and obviously this becomes a thing in the next episode, but there's a shot of war of the sort of the um, animation timeline and of the Fall of the Mutants. So the original war, Abraham Kiros, the green guy with that terrible bowl cut. There is also mention I saw in the bottom. There's a little note like the surname Rolfson, which is obviously about Autumn Rolfson, who is, I want to say, Famine, the original Famine as well from Fall of the Mutants. Um, yeah, so he's on the hunt for Apocalypse and his horsemen, and he's working in cahoots with Archangel and Psylocke, who is Betsy. Crazy. I mean, it has to be Betsy, right? I mean, not that her name's ever mentioned, but she's British, right? So that is 100% Betsy, and I was quite surprised. Didn't think they'd go that route. I thought, we'd get canon, but hey, that's that. And they want to recruit Sunspot and Jubilee to their cause. Um, Now, obviously, Sunspot has been a member of X-Force before. Jubilee, though, has never been a member of X-Force. So that is a really interesting choice. And obviously, this is more on for season two, not season two, episode two, which we will discuss, as I say, tomorrow. But yeah, um, so that's the episode essentially. Um, so with that covered, I don't think there's anything I really missed out. Is there anything major that I missed out? People let me know, and I'm gonna while you let me know if there is anything. Let me know your thoughts on the episode, and I'll look back through the comments and we can discuss things there. Will BT, I am too gay to understand time travel. Um, Me too, and refuse to pretend otherwise. Same. Like I get the whole like I understand the concept of branch timelines. Like if you go to the past, you instead just create a separate timeline. But I don't understand. But that's pretty much the extent of my understanding. So I don't know whether this apocalypse is I don't know whether the apocalypse in the present is future apocalypse or is just present day apocalypse, because I did watch that video that Marvel released that was like a catch up of Apocalypse in the original anime series, and it surprised me that he hasn't actually been in that much. He had obviously the stuff in season one, the stuff in season four where he tries to take over the universe with all the psychics, and then he returns in season five because he takes over Fabian Cortez's body, which is what an interesting choice for season five. I never got to season. I never watched season five. So And it's been a long time, even then, since I've watched the series. So I'm curious about what Apocalypse that is. Um, X-Men 97 is going to give MCU X-Men a high bar to reach, yes. And the thing that kind of worries me is because of the pace of which we're going through the series, like not through the series, sorry, like through stories. Like obviously last season we got Inferno, we got the Trial of Magneto, we got Life Death, we got Operation Zero Tolerance, we had Fatal Attractions, we had bits of Krakoa, we had Ease for Extinction. Like, that's so much stuff. And that was in 10 episodes. Like, that is so many of the high quality X-Men stories, like, already adapted in some form or another. Now, obviously, not all of it is, like, fully adapted, but I feel like there's a sort of cachet to some of it because it's never been adapted before. Like Inferno. We've never seen Madeline Pryor on any other form of media other than the comics. So, that was exciting to see. Bastion, I guess he's been in a game or two, I believe, but like again, never been properly adapted. Um, Fatal Attractions, again, never been properly adapted. So it's like, would the MCU even bother to try and adapt like things that have already been adapted, especially things that have been done so well? Much to think about. So I am a bit like, gosh, we are going through storylines. Obviously, we've done the Cyclops, we've done the Adventures of Cyclops Phoenix, Rise of Apocalypse is happening, X Force is happening, and Uncanny X Force at that. Um, Obviously X Corp and stuff. Yeah. So it does concern me a bit as well in terms of also being a high bar. It's just what's going to be left to adapt, or are they just going to retread everyone's favorite Phoenix Saga? I hope we finally get Team Cable from Krakoa in X-Men 97, so we actually might get a Marvel Legends figure of that design, including the massive sword, because I want that. I didn't. He didn't get a Legends figure. That's crazy because I remember the initial Krakoa line. I don't know if they did another one, but it had like I've got the Charles actually over there. The Krakoa Charles, but I had like Wolverine and Cyclops and Jean in her green dress, or and Moira as well. That's surprising they didn't get a Team Cable, but who knows? At the speed we're going, we'll get Krakoa next season. So watch out, I guess. What's your thoughts on X-97 Bone Claw Wolverine? Because it isn't Fatal Attraction Wolverine, Feral Wolverine. Yeah, it's interesting because I was saying earlier, like it obviously is inspired by Feral Wolverine in terms of like the head mask and the bone claws, but he's not feral enough for my liking. He's a bit more like, but he's not like, he's not like feral. He just isn't feral. Like, and he's not gross, like as he should be. Like as I was saying, if he's got his nose, it's not enough. He needs to be missing his nose. He needs to have those like ugly feet out. He needs to be a bit more feral, but um, I guess not. I guess that was too far for X-Men 97. And Sherlock at least has a Japanese British voice actress. That's a fair point. And yeah, it's a very complicated thing that just isn't is never going to be solved neatly. But I will say, as we'll talk more tomorrow, um, she does have super. She's like has some of the best action scenes. Um, but yeah, but overall, I think this was a pretty good episode. I know what people saw. If you were okay, if people were to rate this episode out of 10, maybe that's a bit rudimentary. Yeah, no, we'll just go with it. We'll go with it. If people were to rate this episode out of 10, how would they rate this episode? For me, I'm thinking, um, hmm, maybe like a 7.5, maybe 8. Like, I think it was good. I think it was very good. I think, was it a better episode? Oh, I was gonna say, is it a better episode than the first episode of season one? And it's a it's it's hard to compare because obviously with season one we had no sort of expectations. Well, in the say we didn't have anything. We didn't know what it was going to be like. And to be fair, I think up until before episode five, I thought this is like nostalgia-ish stuff. Seems fun, but it's very like. And then obviously episode five changed everything. But again, I think it was a strong first episode. I understand now, having seen all of the first three episodes. Um, I understand why they did three episodes. Like originally, when I heard, oh, we got a three episode like opening, premiere, whatever. That that really surprised me because I'm like that. And let's not forget, everyone, that there is only 9 episodes in this season. Last season we had 10. This season we have 9. So we're already a third way through the season. Already a third. Like, isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? We've just started and we're already a third of the way through. But I understand now because each episode obviously covers a different timeline. Um, but yeah, Max, you agree? I think 7.5 is fair. That's what I'd give it. Yeah, yeah, definitely strong opening. It could have been probably a bit more. I feel again. I think there is just some sort of constraints to X197 because it feels like it needs to just do so much in like half an hour. Like imagine if I say this in one of the reactions to season one that, as I said earlier, it's still coming out. They're just going to be a bit delayed because I've want to get out the season two reactions first, and then in the gaps between episodes, I can put the season one reactions out. But I feel like if X97 had like hour episodes, we could really, I feel like, or even 40 minutes, even an extra 10 minutes, I feel like we could have we could just have a bit more depth. Not that we don't have depth, but I feel like we could really just get into more, you know? Um, but be that what it may. Yeah. So I again think this is a good episode. I was gonna say, what are people's hopes for episode two? But we've all already seen it. Is there anyone here that hasn't seen all three? Because if you haven't, you should go watch episode two right away. Um, but yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I don't know if there's anything else that I really feel I need to cover. I will say because tomorrow I'll have a bit more time to prepare. Again, today didn't really have much time. Had to come back from work, had to react and watch the episodes, then had to like have everything ready. Um, so tomorrow I think I'll be able to go a bit more in depth, have a few things prepared a bit more. Obviously, there's so many cameos and stuff in episode two. We're going to be a long one, so prepare. To be honest, Max, you're saying, what are you saying? To be honest, I would say that the episodes in both seasons do feel a tad bit compressed. Too compressed. I think an extra 10 minutes every episode to flesh things out a little more would definitely help, in my opinion. Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think it's definitely a sign that I think personally the weakest episode of season one, which was episode four, was the shortest. And yeah, it's obviously because it also, along with being the shortest, it tried to like, it was two different episodes put together. Obviously, the Motendo stuff, and then part one of Life Death. And I feel like it really like was a disservice to both storylines, really. But yeah, definitely agree. I think, yeah, I don't know what is the aversion to having like 45 minutes, like. Or even better, what is the aversion to having a longer series? Like, okay, if we kept with the 30-minute episodes, but what if we had like 15 episodes or 20 episodes? I feel like that would just be that'd be so good. Um, but I think going back to positives about the episode though, I think another positive of this episode is another reminder that I think animation might be the better way to adapt comics. Like I don't think they could do half the stuff they do in this episode as well as they could do in live action. You know, like the high speed train or Apocalypse's fortress or even like the Final Horsemen, the whole all of Mother Askani floating upside down on fire, like that was cool. And I think that just again reminds me that I think animation is just the right way to adapt X-Men. So part of me, wouldn't be too sad if we didn't get MCU X-Men because if as long as we got more animated X-Men, but I don't know. I feel like they need to slow down a bit, and I feel like they might not slow down because I don't know if people I don't know if people have heard, but I think they're planning to bring out season 3 next year. Okay, we had to wait 2 years and 3 months for season 2, but they're getting X-Men 97 season 3 out for next year. They're already recording voice lines now, which is good. Um, I think we need to bring back yearly seasons, but I hope it's not at the expense of anything in terms of anything quality wise or animation wise. Because Max, yeah, I agree. The animation in this is so good. Like particularly the action scenes. It's like yeah, like wow. And I gotta say, they really are a fan of Cyclops. The writers in this, that you can really tell the writers' favorites, everyone's favorites, really. I think in this episode, obviously, I mean, they're plot A, but Jean and well, I was gonna say Jean and Cyclops, but I think more to an extent Cyclops. I think season 1 really like re redeemed his image, and he can't help but use his optic blast, even not psychic, optic blast to push himself around the room. But it's a lot of fun. Um, but yeah, so very interesting to hear. And I wonder um, if there'll be any synergy from this series in the comics, because I'm trying to think if there was anything from season 1. I think the main thing from season 1 was there was almost Storm almost ended up with that mohawk, and they didn't make it. I wonder if season 2 will have. Maybe we'll get. I was going to say maybe we'll have an X-Force with Jubilee, but that's Boom Boom. And let's not forget they killed off Boom Boom in season 1 because she was on Krakoa. So I guess that's it, isn't it? Oh my God, it's just dawned on me. Boom Jubilee ate Boom Boom's lunch, and she just did it again by becoming the Boom Boom of X-Force. That's dawned on me. We'll talk about that more tomorrow, but wow, just thought of that. That's crazy. Um, but yes, so I think that's everything. Does anyone have any final thoughts they'd like to share about X-Men 97 season 1, X-Men 97 season 2 episode 1, or have they got um any hopes for either? Well, we all know what episode 2 and 3 is going to be like, but any hopes for the remainder of the season? Anything they're looking forward to? Anything they're hoping? Anything? Um, yeah, let me know. Max is saying Genosha, Krakoa would be crazy. Yeah, true. I'm assuming this is about things that have been adapted. Yeah, like that's the thing. The whole fight in Genosha in episode 5 from last season. Like I don't think that can be adapted half as well in live action. But yeah. Things I'm looking forward for season 2. Um, more Polaris. that was fun. Obviously we'll talk more about that tomorrow. I'm ve I'm very interested in how certain characters who have shown up in trailers are gonna be involved. I'll say this now. I think to me, the most interesting plot is still the present. Like I think that's just the most interesting part to me. So I am looking forward to more of that. Though again, I am very surprised that we sort of dealt with the future in one episode. Like I'm surprised. I thought it was going to be half the season, not one episode. Obviously, um, the people in the past might be there for a bit longer, but yes. Um, honestly, I hope they do more unexpected cameos or other fun unexpected twists, like intro thing in another episode. Yes, that's the thing. I hope they commit more to the intro thing. Like maybe this is me being a bit too picky, but I'm like, would love it if like just the characters would wear the outfits they wear in the episode in the intro, as Storm did in season one, and like Magneto. Um, would love that if they kept that up. But yes, I think it really is a positive thing of like the creativity of it and the fact that they're really like playing around with what we know. And it does give me a bit of hope, you know, after everything that happened with the former head writer and things like that. I was a bit worried if season two would like drop off a cliff. But it hasn't. It hasn't yet. We'll see. I think season three will be the test. But yes, more cameos. I agree. Obviously, episode two, full of them, and we'll get to all of that tomorrow. Um, Lou, you want an Emma redemption arc? Well, we all want things we can't have. I think that might be one of them. But there. Okay. I think that's everything. I'm going to wrap that up here. It's basically been an hour. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining me this evening. Um, yeah, I hope everyone's had a fun time with the episode. I hope everyone's had a fun time with me tonight. As I said, tomorrow we will do this all again. It might be a little earlier tomorrow because I will be more prepared. I had to put this one late because of everything I wanted needs to get ready. But I think obviously tomorrow I'll have more time, and then there'll be one on Friday as well. But that might be later because I do have things to do in the evening. But just keep an eye out. I will post post the links to the live streams a bit ahead of time, so just keep an eye out. And then I'll also be posting the reactions as well when I get them edited. It's just me though this time. It's not with Lou. Lou didn't want to have to react for the first time on camera. So it's just me reacting to them. But yes, so that's what's coming up. But thank you all so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. I've very much enjoyed this. Thank you everyone who's commented. This is way more comments than I usually get. I have gotten on previous live streams, so thank you all for being here. Hopefully I'll see some of you tomorrow. And yes, so we'll talk all again tomorrow, hopefully, fingers crossed. In the meantime, I hope you have a great rest of your evening and take care. Bye, everyone.